This is not only a bad day for America, but it's also a bad day for the so-called black community, the FBA, Foundational Black America. Now, there are people that celebrating, especially the Democrats, are celebrating that Trump will be potentially arrested. But what I find to be quite odd is that black people are now the face of death and destruction. The so-called black community is the Democratic face of destruction, the Democratic attack dog with no treat at all. At least a dog, when it does its master's will, the master would give the dog a treat for being a good boy or for being a good girl. But the so-called black American gets nothing. They were the face of Black Lives Matter. They were the face of abortion, aborting, or depopulating the so-called black community. They're the face of the jab in the so-called black community. And now they're the face of bringing down Trump. First it was Letitia James. And now it's Alvin Bragg. Two black people. One's a Manhattan DA, and the other one is the Attorney General of New York. Why do you think they are allowing black people to be in position of power? And the sad thing about that is, after you finish doing the Democratic bid, you get nothing in return. Joe Biden is sending tax dollars to the Ukraine. He just got done sending $300 and some odd billion to the Ukraine, but yet black people are still struggling. You know, there's an old saying that love is not love until you give it away. And you always have others that would say they love black people. My best friends are black. I have biracial children. I have black in my family. But when it comes to rewarding the so-called black community for repairing what was done to not only the ancestors in the past, but yet what affects us today, then the love becomes, my tax dollars should not have to pay for reparations because you were never a slave, and I never owned any slaves. So why should I have to pay? But yet no one is disputing or protesting our tax dollars being sent to the Ukraine. No one is protesting that the illegal immigrants are receiving free health care. They don't have to do anything but break into the country, and they get free health care. They get free education. They get free lodging. And they get to be transported first class by night anywhere in the country they want to go on your tax dollars. And you get nothing. Or better yet, you get the bill. But when it comes to trying to push an agenda, the first person that they put up front are black people. So after or if they happen to bring Trump down, because although they have a weak case, the Democrats are so evil, and I warned you about the Democrats a long time ago. Many of my videos on YouTube had been removed of me predicting what's actually happening today. See, they want to keep you dumb, deaf, and blind. They don't want you to see what's happening to you, although they're doing it right before your eyes. I recall when those so-called witches were in Manhattan and they were doing chants and spells against Trump. They were also doing those spells against you, because they don't want you to wake up. Not just the so-called black Americans, but also other races as well. See, it's one thing for people to get out there and protest, and Black Lives Matter, and they protest for you to abort your unborn child, my body, my choice. And then they're going over to the continent and telling them in the continent over in Uganda that if you don't make your laws to be like those laws in America, where you're turning the black race towards each other, then we don't give you no supplies. So in other words, you have to allow your people to become rainbow. And I'm trying to keep it as respectful as I can. But when it comes to topics like that, you can't beat around the bush. You have to tell things the way they are. So now they're telling Africa that to depopulate you, you have to strongly support the LGBTQ community, or we don't send you no supplies. We will starve you. But what I think African leaders should do is Africa needs to unite. Yes, I'm full aware that Africa is a continent. And a lot of y'all like to divide Africa, but by saying like, well, there's many countries in Africa. But yet, those countries are divided. And if they were on one accord, Africa already has everything they need to survive. The world needs them because of the natural resources. Africa allow outsiders to just roam freely and rape them of their natural resources. Outsiders were able to come and capture your people and enslave them, and the government did nothing about that. But yet they would tell those in Black American, the FBAs, that, well, we were going through too, but yet you weren't taken in captivity. The African government did not send planes and ships and boats. There were no wars to try to get your people back. So now you want to come here and claim the foundational Black Americans by saying we're all the same. No, we're not the same. And this is off my topic, but we're not the same. Because we don't have the same agenda. We have no connection or no bond at all. But back to my topic. Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, need to stop being the face of the Democrat Party. You need to stop being the Democratic face of destruction. You need to stop being the Democratic attack dog. When the only treat they will give you is maybe they allow you to tear down a statue. They support your criminal acts. They put guns in your community. Joe Biden, through the Catholic Church, put crack pipes in the black community. Legalize marijuana. That's your reparations right there. And it's sad because many of you seem to be content with that. You seem to be content with the crumbs that are not even real treats. Because if the Democrat Party really loved you, then there would be no issue with paying reparations to the so-called foundational Black Americans. There should be no problem with that. Because although we have never seen slavery, we have no identity. That's why I say so-called black, because we're not black. We're trying to figure out, in many cases, who we are. Foundational Black Americans, Negro, colored, African American, Afro-American. So we're no more than bywords that have no legal ties to any country at all. But yet you say you love us. Yet you say you support Black Americans. You feel sorry for us. When cases like black men being gunned down in the street by police, being beat and tased just for being black. But yet when election time come around, the first thing they start doing is sending black faces into the so-called black community to recruit your votes. And right now what they're doing, because election time is near, so they're playing the same games they played before, tying up the system with Trump, bringing against him charges that are bogus. They're doing the same thing that they've done, and they're still doing to the so-called Black Americans. I just got done reading an article where this black dude has spent 30 some odd years in prison for a crime he didn't do, and now all of a sudden it comes out that he didn't do it. But that's the bulk of his life that's gone. He may get a couple of million for that, but it's not going to bring back that time. His life is short. And you think by giving him freedom now, which I'm sure he's grateful for being out, but he did nothing wrong, and now you have the face of Black Americans doing the same thing to an innocent man. A political rival. A political rival. You're doing the same thing to Trump that the same Democrat Party is doing and have done to you. They want to keep you in bondage. They want to keep you poor. They don't want you to have or be equal with them. And of course, they give a few house Negroes some crumbs. And those are the ones that's the face of bringing down Trump, the face of abortions, the face of everything that's destroying the so-called black Americans. They may get a house and a car, get to be put out in the suburbs, just like the leaders of Black Lives Matter. But look who did the work. Look who all did the work for Black Lives Matter. And you got nothing. The so-called black community got nothing. All the money that was taken up because they played on your emotions, they played on fears. They're going to destroy democracy. Democracy is just another word for white supremacy. I'm going to repeat that. Democracy is just another word for white supremacy. It's another word for white supremacy. So when they tell you that they want to destroy, they want to take away your democracy, they're saying they want to take away your enslavement. They want to take away white supremacy. And we must keep white supremacy going, while at the same time passing lynching bills to be able to lynch foundational black Americans, passing bills that will destroy you, that's destructive, that destroyed your families. This is the reason why men are not in the home and children in the so-called black community are growing up without their fathers, and their moms is just doing whatever she want to do in the street. See, it's legal for them to get in front of a camera and shake their behind and prostitute themselves. But when someone gets on camera and warn you, tell you to clean yourself up, then they silence you. I've been told on YouTube that my videos were dangerous. YouTube had told me under my old channel that my videos were dangerous, and all I spoke on was what was happening in the world and what was going to be happening. I made a video, and I brought this up before, how they were going to torch and burn America. I also made a video where I said to not vote on black, and how blacks were going to be, or at the time, black females were the Democratic attack dogs because they were attacking black men. There were division and conflict between the so-called black man and the so-called black woman on the internet going at each other. And there's still videos where so-called black females are taking shots at black men and vice versa. Now, I heard a lot of y'all say that the biblical curse is up for the foundational black Americans. Over 400 years of slavery and captivity. But yet now you're doing the same things and worse that your ancestors have done that put them in captivity in the first place. This is history repeating itself. And I also mentioned this some years ago in a video, that if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. And now the so-called black Americans are now bound to repeat that curse. That over 500 years of captivity, you're now going or taking yourself back into captivity. And then you have so-called black Americans that are now human trafficking. It wasn't enough you selling drugs in your own community. That wasn't enough. It wasn't enough that so many so-called black Americans were destroyed, the lives were destroyed because of drugs. The drug dealers, the gangbangers, the pimps, and the prostitutes. And now they've joined with the slave catchers of old. They've taken on the spirit of the slave catchers of old, and now they're involved in human trafficking, sex trafficking of children, murdering your unborn child, and you're protecting the mutilation of children, converting them into the opposite sex, while at the same time rejecting Christ, cursing God, and even the Bible. Now, I didn't mean to go this route. My original intention when making this video was to talk about what's happening with Trump and how they're using a black male and a black female to do their dirty work, and they get nothing in return. Just like a lot of the slave catchers, the Africans, that partook in capturing our so-called ancestors. A lot of them were also taken into captivity. So, and it's like the mob. It happens in the mob where there's cases where the mob would allow blacks, the Italian mob would allow blacks to do some work. And then after that black person did a job, then they would set that black dude up to be taken out as well. Okay, so we're living in a day. This is a sad day. It's a sad day, and we're living in times where you can't trust anyone. I don't care how much they talk about Africa, Black Lives Matter, we're all the same, I love black people. Love is not love until you give it away. And the NAACP in San Francisco has proved that. And there's many so-called black Americans that are also standing up saying, I don't believe in reparation, give us education. How are you going to say education should be given for reparations when foundational black Americans don't even take advantage of the free education they're getting now in public school? They skip classes. They attack the teachers. They're doing everything but learning. And the free education, the city schools are just pushing them through the system. All you need to do is show up and we'll pass you. That's how bad things have gotten. They're not even concerned about giving you quality education, but yet the illegal immigrants, they're giving them education. They're giving them reparations. Just read an article not long ago where Biden is talking about giving the illegal immigrants reparations for lost wages. So they're being rewarded by breaking into this nation. Now, I want to say, if this video is removed off of YouTube, you can also go to my WordPress and it will be there. Or you can go to Spreaker. And it's on my Spreaker account. Because this is information that YouTube does not want us to talk about. Okay, so the links to Spreaker and my WordPress is on the bottom. Go there and follow me free of charge. And if you choose to leave a contribution, a donation, feel free to do so. But more foundational Black Americans need to speak out against this and be real with it. We're in a time where people aren't real. You know, it's not what you see. They may talk a good game, but when it really gets down to business, you're going to have some that's going to be used to bring division. So I spoke on many things. I know I skipped around, but these are things that need to be said. These are things that need to be said. And we have to stop being so afraid and so emotional and so scared and stop taking the bait. Whenever they put a trap down in the so-called Black community, we have to start refusing it, start rejecting it. Everything they put down in the Black community, you gobbled it up. They put a tractor trailer full of guns, and what do? You go get those guns. They put drugs in the Black community. What do? You start using those drugs. So everything negative and evil that they give you, that the white supremacists set before you, you take it. And then when you have some of us start talking reparations, then you have those that just might be tethers. Because you have Africans that's coming here, foreigners that have dark skin, that can speak English, can sound like you, can act like you, can dress like you. And the first thing they're going to stand up and says, I don't think you should get reparations. You don't deserve it. We don't deserve it. Well, really, what do we need to do to deserve it? Our families are destroyed. We have no country, no language of our own. We have nothing of our own. And what foundational Black Americans did create, white supremacy patented and had taken it for their own. So blacks get no credit for what they do. And then when blacks do begin to start building and creating, somehow it's found a way to be destroyed or taken over by someone else. Or some black person will sell it out. So, again, we have to stop being the face of destruction. Stop being the face or the attack dogs of the Democrat Party. Refuse to vote unless you have something tangible first. Away with these empty promises where if you vote for me, I will give you this. Remember in the last election, Joe Biden started talking about what he's going to give you. Oh, we'll give you a stimulus. If I'm in office, I'll give you a stimulus. And you had desperate black people that voted for him. And once he got in there, you never got those stimulus that he promised. And when he don't keep his promise, he'll stand up and say it was the Republicans' fault. Well, those on the right, they did this. You know, I pushed the bill, but they turned it down. We can't push nothing through because of the Republicans, because of the GOP. And then they got you now angry and thinking that the Republicans are racist and don't want you to have nothing, just like critical race theory. Critical race theory is not about black people. Being woke, as they say, is not about black people. Because you have white people that's walking around saying that they're woke. But when you start talking reparations, you notice they're now preaching a totally different message. They don't support it. They don't feel that you deserve it because they never had no slaves. Then you have those that start talking about, well, my ancestors came to this country. We didn't have nothing to do with it, but yet you're benefiting off of it. That's when they become brand new. They'll love you until you start talking reparations. They're with you and support you and will get out there and protest and Black Lives Matter because they want to be seen. They're like Joe Biden. Joe Biden want to be seen. I saw an image in an article where Joe Biden was out there marching with Al Sharpton and some other black people. He just want to be seen so he can now got bragging rights. I marched with the black community and I fought for this. But yet you marched and you think you fought for things, but yet you got the power to do what you're doing with Ukraine instead of just saying, I'm going to stand up and do an executive order and pay the so-called black Americans, every adult. Now, this is my thought of reparations. I think when it comes to, I call it generation, well, actually, I'm one of the last of the baby boomers. So you got the baby boomers, and then you got, what is it, Generation Z or something? It's like the generation after the baby boomers. They should receive the cash reparations. Okay? Those beyond should in all free tax-free status. Every black American, just like natives, tax-free status, free education, free health care. Okay? Or land. The young people can receive the land, the free education, right? And when it comes to like the adults, like say the baby boomers and Generation Z, whatever it's called, then once we pass away, that money is going to be passed down to the youth anyway. Generational wealth. It's passed on, and then they can pass it to their children after they built on it if they don't squander it and waste it. But when it comes to cash, I think it should be given to the baby boomers and the Generation X or Z, whatever you call them, right? But then the younger generation should get not only the free the tax status, but land and education and health care. And they have to work. And another thing, too, is black Americans need to get your kids back in school. Take advantage of the free education. Make sure your child sit down and do their homework. Help them. And if you are uneducated, you need to go back to school. Because I'm sure that there's education opportunities out there where you can go to school and get your GED. Take classes. But black Americans need to start taking advantage of every opportunity that's here for you. Until you start doing for yourself, people aren't going to respect you. You're going to get no respect. They may have sympathy for you. They may feel sorry for you. But they don't respect you because they see that you're doing nothing for yourself to better yourself, but crying and complaining. Yes, I agree with reparations. I think that we should get it. Because a lot of damage has been done to us. And that little bit of money, whatever they choose to give, or land, or tax-free status, education, whatever, that's not going to fully repair all the damages that were done. It's not even about slavery because we've never been enslaved. But yet we're reaping the consequences of it. And that's why you find that you have blacks are being gunned down and being beat by police that have badges and guns. And then those that do stand up and fight back, you were either killed in the street because now you got that whole gang that's going to come and deal with you, or you're going to be locked up for the rest of your life for standing up, defending yourself. And the sad thing is you can't rely on the community to help you because they're going to stand around with their cameras and record you. So you're left out high and dry alone to try to fight the system yourself. But until the foundational Black Americans decide to stand up and start policing their own communities and then start policing the police, until you get to that point, you're going to remain on the bottom. And I mentioned in a video of the past, it's like now a lot of y'all don't want to work. See, that free money is running out that they were given. Like, oh, for being unemployed, or you get that extra $600 a week. That now ran out. And a lot of y'all are homeless and struggling. And there's jobs available. And your kids are watching you. They're not getting quality education. So now when they graduate from school without knowledge, they can't even compete in the job market because they don't know how to even present themselves in an interview to get the job. They have no skills. So now it's repeating the same cycle over again. Now they're going to end up being a single parent mom with multiple kids by different dudes. And you got the dudes now, and then after you get these kids, now all of a sudden you gay. Right? And now you with the same sex, and now your child is confused growing up. There's just so much confusion that's going on. Just in the Black community alone. And you keep falling for the same traps that's set for you. Instead of taking control of yourself, thinking for yourself, and not allowing politicians to think for you or tell you how you should think. So I'm going to end it right here. Didn't mean to go this long, but feedback, tell me what you think, subscribe, click on the Cash App or the Venmo, support the channel, leave a donation. Until next time, I'm fearless.